3 million eaters in the city of Chicago, and we all get plenty to eat every day. So I'm pretty curious, and I said, how does it happen? I mean, our food's fast, cheap, and easy. So I decided to look into it. I learned about our food system. I decided to take a road trip. Jumped in my powder blue Prius, loaded up on sweet potatoes, and hit the road. Where did I start? I started with big farms. Illinois and Iowa, biggest farms we've got. Grow a ton of corn, soy, and wheat. I couldn't find very many farmers. What I found out is farmers were replaced by fossil fuels. And yeah, fossil fuels, a lot of damage, but we go ahead and grow a lot of corn, soy, and wheat. So I followed some of it to Kansas. Drove to Kansas and saw a bunch of it goes to ethanol, even more of it goes to feed cows and other animals. And yeah, we eat the animals, but most of it ends up as waste. So I also spent a little bit of time looking at kind of who works in the food system. And it didn't matter where it was, but like up and down the line, they didn't make a whole lot of money. In fact, a lot of them were working for poverty level wages, and they were making less than they made 40, 50 years ago. So what do we eat? We eat corn, soy, and wheat. No shocker there. Processed. Food companies buy it for next to nothing, process it. They add a bunch of sugar. So our diet's changed over the last 30 years. Food companies learned about 30 years ago that if they added a whole bunch of sugar, we ate more food. So our diet's changed. We eat more calories. We're bigger. We weigh a lot more than we used to, about 25 to 30 pounds more than we did a generation or so ago. And our health has gotten worse. Even though we've given up smoking, we spend a lot on healthcare, and a lot of it has to do with diet-related diseases. So we spend about 2x what other countries spend, like our peer countries spend, on healthcare, and our health is largely worse. So should the government be involved? And as it turns out, the government is involved in a big way, providing subsidies to the corn farmers and providing subsidies to the fossil fuel industry, providing food stamps. So our tax dollars pay for food stamps, and they pay for healthcare, increasingly healthcare. So I drove down to Springfield to check it out. And I saw in Springfield a whole bunch of food advocates down there, and they weren't necessarily working for our best interests. So I had some good conversations with the food lobby. I didn't run into Ron Reagan, but I did drive by his house a couple times. And I was reminded of one of his lines, one of his great lines. He said, hey, government's part of the problem. And a lot of people would agree. Government is a big part of the problem. They go ahead and, as more and more money's gotten involved in government, the results haven't necessarily been great. So I had some time to think about our food system and said, you know what, our cheap food's not quite as cheap as we thought it was, and it's caused a bunch of problems. What if we created a new food system? Could it go ahead and solve a bunch of problems? And what's the response so far? So far, it's largely been around education. So personal responsibility, making better choices. Here's an organization I'm involved in, Truck Farm, and there are kids here that are growing, that are eating great food for the first time in their lives. And then there are farmers, young farmers that are jumping in the game. Even a couple miles from here, this is a couple of young guys at City Farm. They're growing great food for us, for people. And their food system, local food systems are trying to grow. And there are more people that are going ahead and, actually we're going to get to the cooking in a second. But we got to get more than fruits and vegetables. And I visited some folks in Salina, Kansas that have been working on breeding plants. It's the Land Institute breeding plants, so we don't need the fossil fuels, and we don't deplete the soil. They're growing perennials in polycultures. It's really cool. Here I'm in Boulder, Colorado with some Uber athletes. They're laughing at me because I'm not very good at riding uphill on bikes. But they've taken back cooking, and there are more and more people that are taking back cooking from the big companies, and they're grabbing their health. So what's going to happen? I mean, there were some great things going on, but are we going to be able to hold the politicians' feet to the fire? Are we going to move past education and get to making food, like good food, de facto? I don't know, but we got to broaden the conversation. We don't talk about poverty very often, but we got crazy amounts of poverty, even in this great country. And if we really want to improve our health, we've got to address poverty. So again, what's going to happen? I don't know. Our cheap food isn't quite as cheap as we think, but we're still pretty comfortable because no one's starving. It's not the same overseas. So what do you do? What do we do? I don't know. I say celebrate food. Put food at the center. Right? This was one of the highlights of the trips. Jumping with like 20 friends, we skied uphill, we cooked and ate like kings, and then we celebrated. So I'm going to end with a toast. To good food.
Yay, cheers.